Our first presentation deals with consumer purchase behavior and future shopping trends. We have two speakers, Tami Catron, VP of Business Development, and Steve Fine, Shopper Insights, both with Retail Aware. Tami, the podium is yours.
Thank you very much, John. We appreciate the opportunity to join the Lead Marketing Conference today and be a part of this. My name is Tami Catron. I'm Vice President of Retail Aware, and Steve Fine, who is also on the line with us too as well, is the Marketing and Shopper Insights for Retail Aware. Today we're going to look at and examine consumer purchasing behavior with COVID-19 and the future shopping trends. We're so excited to have so many folks joining us from so many different countries. We love to have the opportunity to speak to everyone and are excited to get started.
Thanks, Tami. We're really looking forward to walking through consumer purchase behavior and some of the information that Retail Aware is studying and looking at. Today, through our meeting, we're going to first talk about who Retail Aware is and how Retail Aware looks at in-store data in real time. Next, we're going to be walking through looking at many different retail channels such as grocery stores, big boxes, wholesalers, home improvement, discount dollar stores, pharmacies, direct-to-consumer, convenience stores, and restaurants, and looking at what was happening with them prior to COVID-19 and then the reactions and what's been happening since. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about our predictions for consumer trends and purchase behavior in the future. So going on to the next slide. So who is Retail Aware? Really, Retail Aware is a company that focuses specifically on measuring consumer behavior and retail execution at the store level when you're shopping in the store, specifically focusing on giving that information for retail brands and retailers themselves. What I'd like to do now is walk through a video that talks a little bit more about who Retail Aware is.
So there's brand new data out from Retail Aware, and they are saying they looked at shopping patterns for March and April. The best times, Wednesdays and Thursdays before 10 a.m.
This startup is in over 200 markets worldwide and a lot of places that you would recognize. And while the founder tells me things are starting to return to normal again at the grocery store, it was a wild 2 weeks.
Thank you so much for joining us with that little video and introduction of who we are and just a little bit about what we do. We saw some very interesting insights during COVID and to continue to see those insights. Wanted to talk just real briefly about what we do. We're a small proprietary, simple proprietary IoT sensor that with AI that makes real-time shelf data a reality. And we have just basic base station and a micro sensor that goes into the stores. We measure everything from audience footfall to dwell time with our sensors to engagement. We have switch sensors for audience numbers as well as temperature sensors and coolers. We are the Swiss Army knife of sensors. If you pretty much any need that you would have that we would be able to help you with. We measure the real-time shelf analytics, which is extremely important to what is going on right now with COVID, with the changing environment on a day-to-day and even hour-to-hour. It has been extremely challenging for retailers and brands to measure what happens in stores in real time during COVID. And we've been able at Retail Aware to capture that data, and we're so excited to be able to share that with you as well. What we're seeing with consumer shopping behavior, as I mentioned here just a moment ago, shopper trends are changing daily in real time. Retail, consumer products, restaurants, they need to shift their data intake from understanding consumer behavior in a report card method, which is 2 to 3 weeks after looking at sales, looking at whether or not this marketing was impactful, looking at whether or not the product placement on the shelf was impactful. That the report card method is not able to really give you that real-time actionable data. That's what we want to talk about. We're so excited about talking about today, is being able to understand what is happening to that consumer and that shopper in real time.
If you take a look at the chart, something that's very interesting is the fact that during the virus, spending was very, very elevated. But at the same time, it was very, very erratic. You can see from mid-February all the way through March, things were going back and forth, and there's actually different stages. And that's really what we want to get into a little bit more detail about right now. So as I mentioned earlier, what we want to do is really talk about each of the channels, both prior to COVID-19, and then what some of the elements and things that we've seen happening with consumer behavior during COVID-19. So the first thing we want to talk about is grocery stores. And specifically, what we've noticed is, or what was, daily foot traffic was up. And a lot of that had to do with the way the grocery stores were focusing on promotions, the strategies of private label and brands, and looking for the best types of offers. Sampling is a big, big part of driving profit and programs with stores. And then a number of grocery stores were really focusing as well on the food service, the food bars and the salad bars. At the time, there was very, very limited pickup at curbside, and consumers were purchasing and going to the store about 2.3 trips per week. The aisles were clear. The consumer had the time to search, look at ingredients, find the right brands, compare. And as I mentioned before, demos and sampling were a big part of grocery shopping. But there's a number of things that have changed with grocery stores. Tami, what's been going on now with grocery stores?
Thank you, Steve. What we're seeing currently right now with grocery stores is that overall daily foot traffic is down. A part of that attributed to the panic buying in the mid-March, and then things leveling off and people stocking up. We have been seeing an increase in pickup and curbside delivery as well. We've seen that decline in the consumers averaging now 1 trip per week versus the 2.3 that you had mentioned, Steve, as well as there's less dwell time in aisles due to the one-way traffic. That ping-ponging back and forth in the aisles is no longer existing like it used to. So we have to think about ways that we can communicate and get our product over to the person if they're on one side of that aisle with the arrow directionally putting them on that side. That impacts, again, the impulse item buys. And all along with impulse buying, the suspension of demos and sampling is going to also have to be reconfigured in ways that we can help guide people and encourage them for those impulse buys again. We've also seen store brand purchases have increased as well. Steve, I'm going to turn over to you now, big box, and let you talk a little bit about what happened prior.
Yeah, we're talking about big box type stores, stores like Walmart, Target, and Best Buy. And these types of stores, they sell a variety of different products, from clothing to jewelry, housewares, food. From a Best Buy standpoint, just all the different types of electronics, from appliances to earbuds to computers and so on and so forth. And so these stores are large, and have a very nice blend of products. And foot traffic has been very, very steady. Another key component is these outlets have been doing a wonderful job building their online businesses. So they've had a nice blend as we go into the COVID times. And pickup was just beginning to start and become more popular with big boxes. But there's some things that have changed with these stores. What's happened to these guys, Tami?
Yeah, what we've seen currently right now is that we saw foot traffic increased and spiked mid-March with what our sensors told us, with subdued declines in foot traffic. Some of that we attribute to also that foot traffic decline is people having to wait in line to get into some of these stores. As well as we saw some major electronic stores. We saw foot traffic spike mid-March again. and decline. Now, that would be those Best Buys and those folks were open for curbside, but of course, foot traffic internally within the store would decline. An interesting fact that we've been seeing and hearing about is that Walmart Marketplace is outperforming Amazon and eBay. We'll explore that a little bit more in future slides, but we believe that that is because of people wanting to get those purchases right away. So again, since March 14th, we've seen supermarket traffic typically has dipped midweek and risen on the weekends. There was one exception, Wednesday, April 1st, when we saw traffic was ironically higher midweek than it was previously. So now we'd like to talk a little bit about the wholesale retailers prior to.
We want to talk about wholesalers, retailers, folks like Sam's, Costco, BJ's. As everyone is aware, bulk purchasing is a big factor and a major draw for these types of retailers. Again, very large assortment of products, from clothing to durables to electronics, really centering around food. These folks also do an awful lot with special buys, where they will buy a specific type of a product for a certain amount of time at a wonderful offer. With this channel, traffic has remained pretty steadily. Longer times have been spent in the store because of their actions with impulse buying, and obviously an awful lot of sampling and demos really help drive customers. Since bulk purchasing is such a prevalent aspect of this channel, consumers weren't in as often as normal grocery stores. They were looking at one time per week. But yeah, things have also changed with wholesale retailers, haven't they, Tami?
They surely have. Again, they fell in same line. We saw some spike in mid-March with them, again, during that purchase pandemic buying. We also saw purchases increase in home electronics for those folks. The ability to be able to go in and get your groceries and then looking for ways to have entertainment in home. We've seen increases in home electronics. We saw traffic decline in this category, but it still continues to outperform the other categories as well. Again, they were impacted by the suspended demos and sampling. The Costco demos went away. So we're going to have to continue to, as I mentioned earlier, to reconfigure and figure out what the best way is to get those products into people's hands for sampling. Also, that's being required at Costco and other stores. We're seeing some different impacts on that too as well. I'm going to turn it back over to you for home improvement, Steve.
Yeah, as far as home improvement, we're talking about stores like Home Depot, Lowe's, and even Ace and True Value and different types of hardware chains. Really what we're talking about is consumers' need to improve upon their homes, and the home improvement segment is many times dictated by new home sales. It's dictated by startups, and the growth has been pretty well documented as far as home improvement segment. A lot of that is characterized by really three different factors. One is growth of home values. And because of that growth, consumers are going in to want to increase the value and increase the aspects of the home. Other elements is the age of the nation's housing. And so therefore, again, home improvement to do that. And then we're also seeing an uplift with millennials beginning to purchase homes, and again, more folks going in to purchase homes. But this segment has also changed, haven't they, Tami?
It has a little bit, but it has remained, though, comparatively unchanged from prior months, unlike the other retailers that have been hit. We attribute that to the additional DIY traffic store increases for the people at on the stay-at-home. They're looking at wanting to do home projects and lawn and garden, and all those different things that they now have the time to be able to do at home. So again, we've seen that remain comparatively unchanged during COVID, with some spikes. Now that may change a little bit due to the waiting lines now getting in there too as well, and accounts. But again, the purchases and what we're seeing have remained competitively unchanged.
All right, going into discount and dollar stores. These are the types of stores. Originally, they were surrounded in small and rural towns, And then in recent years, they've moved into suburbs, and now you'll see them also in inner cities. And they continue to enjoy organic growth. Consumers have started to look for a lot of basic products, such as detergent and paper products as well. They've done an awful lot of expansion into the food categories, and they've done that with their own private label type products. Consumers look at these folks as more of a one-stop type shop that can really fit all their needs at a very economical standpoint. What's been going on with discount and dollar stores since COVID-19 happened, Tami?
With the size of those store formats, most of them being less than 7,000 feet, we have seen the store remain steady. And we attribute that probably to a lot of the store formats being less than that 7,000 feet, as I mentioned, which would mean less people, so there's more comfortability in going there as well. We're also seeing shoppers seeking those lower prices and wanting to stay closer to home and not spend the money on gas. Because of the location of many of these discount and dollar stores, they're closer to the vicinity of where people live, so they're more likely to go there to grab the things that they need quickly.
Talking about pharmacy, the big draw with pharmacy is obviously getting your prescriptions there. But they also have some wonderful sales focusing around healthcare type products, but they've even grown even further with a number of different ancillary type products, getting into food, getting into a lot of holiday business like Halloween or Labor Day, as well as the full experience. But they've also started to get into a lot of digital type connections, having digital couponing, doing an awful lot more social advertising from that perspective. Fitness, nutritional, vitamins, those types of things have also begun to be a big part of the pharmacy chains. Another thing that they've gotten into recently is the immunization and wellness. A number of retailers like Walgreens and CVS have actually hired nurse practitioners and physicians and have been offering different types of services for well-being. But things have also changed with pharmacies.
They sure have, Steve. And what we saw, again, with pharmacies was the same trending of peaking on March 13th and then declining over the rest of the month. We felt a lot of that was due to people and consumers wanting to stock up on those medicine and health products because they were fearful of being in quarantine for a long time. We've also seen an increase in pharmacy drive-through, and that we will believe will continue to remain strong. That is also a point of where can pharmacies be able to understand and be able to help promote those products if the person is not coming into the store? How are they going to change some of their marketing to get them back into that store? Now, this is something interesting that we observed too as well, is that we've seen increased front store purchases. So those that are actually going into those pharmacies, we are seeing people purchasing and doing more front store increased purchases. I'm going to turn it back over to you now, Steve.
Yep, let's talk a little bit about direct-to-consumer type programs. This segment has had some challenges. While there's a number of companies that have been doing very well, a number of other companies, such as some mattress companies and clothing companies, have had some real challenges, especially with consumer acquisition costs, with competition heating up in this realm. They've had to scramble a little bit and really work through that consumer acquisition. Some of the essence of how to get through that, many of these folks were looking at moving to brick and mortar type locations to help focus more on both online as well as selling directly to the consumer from a face-to-face standpoint. What's happening with these folks, Tami?
Sure. On the direct-to-consumer brands, we have seen significant declines in certain larger products since COVID, such as what Steve had mentioned, the mattresses and some of those larger products that we're beginning to gravitate towards and move into the brick-and-mortar locations. We are seeing, though, with direct-to-consumer products, that the smaller products, the online products, we are seeing those remain somewhat stable on that end, if not increases in certain product lines. We believe that product innovation will become a critical part of that direct consumer success as we move forward with the consumers, and particularly when moving in and continuing to move into that brick and mortar. And that cash is going to be king for some of those folks, like those mattress companies and that are brick and mortar. They're going to have that cash influx to be able to continue to maintain and promote their products both online and also in brick and mortar.
So with convenience stores and small groceries, a big part of those types of stores are also gas stations. And of those gas stations, a big part of that is fuel. It's about 61% of their business. And that, as well as the convenience factor of many of the small grocery stores, and the convenience that they're close to home and easy and very convenient. A big part of their sales has been growing in the beer, the wine, the liquor, and also lottery sales have been a big part. Another growth potential that they were looking at, it was food service. You know, many of them were selling direct food such as hot dogs, coffee, donuts, and a lot of self-service type options. Obviously, with staying remote, COVID-19 has absolutely changed things for convenience stores.
Yes, what we're seeing in areas that we've seen for changes, of course, our fuel sales are down. And that's due to the stay-at-home and social distancing. People just aren't getting in their cars and traveling other places. We have seen a bump in beer, wine, and liquor sales. That's due to the fact that people don't want to be able to grab that and not have to go into a grocery store to have to go to get to the liquor department or the beer department. And so it's avoidance of those crowds. We also saw food service sales decreased due to the removing of self-service options. Many of the roller grills were shut down, coffee was shut down, make your own coffee. So again, we saw some decline in the food service sales as well. And at the bottom too, I want to point out that the department stores, boutiques, and dealers, many of those stores were closed during the pandemic, which affected any reliable data that we were able to deem from them. However, we are seeing the trends, as everybody has seen in the news recently, with the closures and bankruptcies. So we're hoping that they can rebound and come back and be a part of everything after COVID too as well. Now I'd like to talk a little bit briefly on restaurants. What we're seeing here in restaurants right now, and we've got a graph that we're showing that shows the decline in the restaurant transactions changes versus a year ago, which honestly doesn't surprise us due to the fact that we saw a lot of foot traffic declines, restaurants closing down due to COVID. We saw an actual decline of restaurant transactions by about 30% at the end of April compared to a year ago. Now, interestingly, though, 58% of shoppers say that extremely or very likely that they will return back to their same eat-out routines. And we're starting to see that with the opening of different states and restaurants, people returning back with that proper social distancing within those restaurants. There's been some creative ways that people have done some of that, including every other table, and even one that hit the news recently is mannequins being placed within that restaurant in the empty tables to make people feel like that restaurant was still full. We're seeing digital restaurant orders increase by about 63% and delivery by about 67%. About 51% of consumers ordered takeout meals from local restaurants, and 15% had restaurant meals delivered from folks in service like DoorDash or Grubhub. Some additional factors now we would like to explore in consumer shopping behavior during COVID-19. Here are some things that we saw at Retail Aware in COVID-19. We saw a peak again in March 14th, which is that pandemic buying, with things dropping off and the footfall and traffic coming back down again, and then kind of spiking back and forth comparatively to 2019. On the right-hand side, you'll just see some of the product changes that have also happened. We saw the toilet paper is up over 8,300%. Canned soups up over 366%. again, we saw some major increases in different areas for that.
Yeah, also, after an initial grocery analysis, Retail Aware found store shopping traffic was down between 10 a.m. Through at midweek, which is why we were recommending those are the best times to go to your grocery store.
Exactly. Some other things that in our research that we've learned about retail during COVID-19, and some of the things that we want to bring to you as well and share, is that 68% of shoppers said that their grocery habits are going to return to normal once the pandemic is over. 56% of those shoppers said that they're going to eat at home more than they used to. And interestingly enough, in March, we were cooking about 3.8 weekly home dinners. Well, now we're averaging about 6 dinners at home now reportedly. 31% of shoppers also are going to do more online shopping, grocery pickup, and we think that that's going to remain consistent as people who have never done that before are doing the grocery online pickup. And that consumers are still spending, and sometimes they're spending more, and they're spending more on food and household supplies, personal care items, and home entertainment. The other thing that we've observed is 87% of U.S. shoppers are going to prefer to shop in stores with some type of touchless or robust self-checkout options. So that is going to impact that front of the store marketing. So we're going to have to take a look at how those items are going to be connected with those folks if they're gravitating more to doing their own checkout and not standing in line where those magazines and confectionery and pop and those impulse buys were at.
So we've just gone through a number of pieces of information that we've gathered and others have gathered on COVID-19 and all of the channels. But let's talk a little bit more about the consumer now. And what does this truly mean for long-term shopping behavior? How are consumers going to be purchasing in the future? Right now, we know that e-commerce is taking on a much bigger role than in the past for consumer purchases. But what's really going to happen with retail? And the first thing we want to talk about is the fact that we strongly believe that brick and mortar is not dead right now. Again, e-commerce is really taking a lot of the load right now. But at this stage, brick and mortar isn't dead. It's just incubating right now to evolve into a lot of the new factors that we're looking at and talking about. Specifically, consumers are going to adopt a lot of these short-term behaviors that Tami and I have been talking about, and it will evolve into more permanent behaviors. And so the question is, how do those blend together? Looking at the economic adjustments and the changing instances in commerce behavior, people may have different jobs, the economy will be different. So how is that going to truly affect consumer purchasing? And then we strongly believe that both e-commerce and brick and mortar are going to be even stronger partners for long-term shopping behavior. And so let's really take a long look at some of these evolving trends and where we see things changing and what those trends are truly going to be. We identified 7 different trends that we want to discuss today. First, health, cleaning, and exercising, online shopping, social distancing, being remote, trust, sustainability and environmental with green brands, getting your products now, and shopping and differences of shopping needs versus shopping for entertainment. So let's talk through the first one right now very quickly, and that's social distancing. And obviously, with the coronavirus, things have made distancing a predominant factor in consumer purchase behavior. With consumers distancing themselves from each other, when you're in the store shopping, you're really going to want to make sure you make the customer feel very, very comfortable. Tami, what else can we talk about with social distancing and how important it is for a trend that we see going on?
Sure. Consumers are going to want, again, more space to shop. They're going to want to have that 6-foot to 8-foot radius around them. They want easy, fast movement through the store. So stores are going to have to be looking at ways to configure and help have that movement and increase and that pace increase. They want that protection of getting too close, those one aisle lanes, the ability to be able to stay further back from people. They're going to want the touchless displays and checkout lanes, as we had mentioned earlier in some of the studies that we had seen. They're going to want digital in-store communication versus having to touch and pick something up. Again, so that digital communication is going to be a big part. Staple products in areas that are easy for them to access, if they just need to come in and grab and go. We're seeing that people are wanting to have the comfort foods moved up front of the store. Store demos, again, will be limited to the numbers of consumers. So how are those going to be configured? And I think that's going to be explored here in one of the other presentations today. But just kind of what's going to happen with demos and the life of demos and what is going to be happening on that end. Restaurants, again, tables are going to have to be spaced further apart for dining, and the curbside pickup is going to remain strong for those folks, both in restaurants, grocery store, and also retail.
Let's talk about trust a little bit. Obviously, trust has always been a big factor in consumer purchase behavior, both trust in the brand, trust in the retailer. Even more so today with what's going on with the COVID virus. Consumers are truly going to need to be reassured about the products, the activities of shopping, all those types of things. What are some examples, Tami, of that trust that we know that the consumers are going to be looking for?
Yes, consumers are going to want communication that supports that trust. They want those stores to communicate with them and tell them the best ways that they can be kept safe as they go out into the shopping world again. They want that feeling of community. Are those stores with them and wanting to make sure that they are going to be remaining safe? And how can they trust that retailer, that grocer, that hardware store to be able to create that sense of community and trust? They're going to be looking for that cost and value equation of products. With the furloughs and layoffs, again, money is tight for a lot of folks out there. They're going to be looking at what is that cost and the value of that product. They're going to be looking for new ways of understanding what is going on within that store and new ways of looking at and observing the different types of things that retailers and brands are offering. We're going to see influencers, ambassadors, and recommendations continue to grow and guide those consumers. They're wanting transparency and options from those brands and retailers. Hey, about when the toilet paper shortage hit, or when we've had the meat crisis going on right now, those types of things. How are stores dealing with that, and what options are they giving them to come back in and have other products to buy? And consumers are going to be looking at ways to explore to buy local too as well. So stores, brands, and retailers are going to have to look at ways that they can align themselves with local folks too.
Talking about health and exercising, and this has been a trend with more folks working out, checking their vitals, running, doing just a variety of different things to keep themselves healthy, checking ingredients on food products, making sure what they're eating is right. But we see this even getting stronger, especially with the factors and that fear of being sick. They're going to also look to health from that perspective as well.
Yes, consumers will be looking to still keep healthy, Steve, as you had mentioned. They're going to be looking for, from the retailers and consumers, are going to be looking for ways to promote those healthy products and lifestyles and strategies. How are retailers going to adapt to the changes in trying on products, such as retail clothing, shoes, and also in the grocery side of the consumers and restaurants too as well? They're going to be looking for those healthy meals to help keep themselves healthy. And point of sale is going to be an important part of guiding those folks to that area. They're going to want to emphasize products that support good health. And partnering with organizations that have that same healthy living platform. So in other words, a store or somebody that carries workout clothing might want to look at partnering perhaps with a gymnasium or those types of things as they continue to open up. Farm stands and growing in-home food, that is going to continue to be a major emerging trend.
All right, let's talk a little bit about sustainability. This was a trend, and we believe the trend is absolutely going to continue There may be some added information as far as packaging from a sustainability standpoint, but this trend was very, very focused on eliminating landfills, eliminating food waste, and really keeping the environment safe and clean for us and everyone in the future. What else do we see as sustainable products and programs, Tami?
Sure. We're going to see that the promotion and highlighting of sustainable products will continue to increase and grow, that people are going to expect more value out of those sustainable products as well. They're going to still continue to want to limit the food waste and eliminate landfills. They're going to expect sustainable products to cost the same. And the big question is, will consumers pay more for those sustainable products? What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this before, trends where consumers aren't wanting to pay more for a sustainable type of product, but at the same time, when it goes up against competition, they are willing to pay it from a pricing standpoint. The real question, and I think the jury's out right now, as far as will consumers look to want to pay more for that product that is sustainable? And I think there's some good factors that align with that.
Exactly. And partners in sustainable products, packaging companies, and those folks will continue to play an integral part of repackaging.
All right, going on to online shopping. Obviously, as we talked about a little bit earlier, there's many ways to shop, and COVID-19 has absolutely pushed online shopping to the forefront, and that's the best way these days, or the most convenient way these days to really do a lot of the shopping. At the same time, from a trending standpoint, we believe overall that shopping and research in combination with POS and in-store shopping is going to become a more frequent, familiar type of process. Tami, what do you think?
Yeah, Steve, I agree. And research of products is going to be instrumental moving forward for those consumers. They're going to want to research those products prior to going into the store to reduce that amount of in-store time. They're going to want to look also at the cost of the product, the size of the product, the fit of the product, and the colors of the product. Again, doing that online shopping and research is going to be important, not only for ordering online, but also for those that want to reduce the amount of time within those stores as well. They're going to want to compare the products and prices. Again, reducing the amount of store-to-store travel and wanting to reduce the amount of time that they have to go into a store and look at comparing products and prices. They're going to do a lot of that. We're seeing online too as well. The no social contact or travel for safety is also going to be impactful for the shopping and research folks when their consumers are out there as well. Purchasing online versus in store. Again, they're going to want to look at that product type, what's going to motivate them to purchase, and the available time to shop. As we had mentioned earlier in our presentation, the times are going to be less crowded for that. Another area that's going to have to be examined by the retailer and the differences of return processes too, as well. Some have opened up returns now for items purchased prior to COVID. But again, what is the return process going to be on some of those items that have gone into folks' homes and then coming back? So that's going to have to be examined more in depth as well.
And the next trend, wanting your product now, and all the strong distribution that needs to take place if you're talking about online and shipping from that perspective. But immediate product gratification, and we see this trend continuing for consumers wanting that product immediately.
Right, and that immediate product gratification, it can be attributable, we believe, into some of what we're seeing with the increases of Walmart against Amazon and eBay. For those folks that can't get those products through Amazon and eBay, consumers are still wanting that the ability to be able to pick up, and also that one-day delivery is still staying strong for folks too that are ordering online. We're going to see the restaurant counter and dining flow increase in speed too as well. We believe that people are going to want to move faster through those restaurants, particularly if they're walking in and not using the drive-through in your quick service restaurants as well. Drive-through, again, will continue to remain strong. We'll see delivery. They want fast and safe and clean delivery options to their home. A lot of folks are going to be doing what we refer to as BOPIS, is buying online and pick up in store as well. To our earlier comment about store layouts, people are want to be able to get those grab and go items, those comfort foods, and those things that they're going to want to be able to go into the store and grab those. The stores are going to have to look at how can we reconfigure and put those items more up front. And again, for the store layouts that are going to be changing, there's going to need to be strong directional, and for the brands, pop signage to be able to say, hey, this is my item in this aisle, even if you're going one way and that side of that aisle is across from you, to be able to grab the attention of that consumer and that shopper.
And finally, the topics of shopping for needs versus shopping for entertainment. With what's been going on with the coronavirus, obviously, our focus has been shopping for needs because of the availability of getting into stores, of shopping online, availability of food and products and those kinds of things. Differencing being shopping for entertainment, where it was almost a hobby, where you'd go to the store, you'd go online, you'd have the opportunity to compare products, look at colors, and just a variety of different things. Well, we believe that as things change and we get back to a normalcy, that the consumer will still want to go ahead and shop in both manners, both shopping for needs and shopping as an entertainment pastime type product.
Right, and shopping for needs are going to be the immediate needs. I mean, again, what am I needing right now, and to be able to put that food on my table, or those pair of shoes that I might need. The consumers to have a choice of the brands and the products, again, is going to be a big part of as we continue to move forward. And there's going to be that continued health focus and a new focus as well, and just having products that are going to keep us healthy. The shopping for entertainment, again, online shopping for those entertainment items, and the product experience. Once stores begin to open back up again, being able to go in and take a look at that appliance, open up that refrigerator, be able to look at those screens. Again, that product experience is still desired in some of the bigger ticket items. The physical contact as well, and comparing products, prices, and lifestyles. What is going to be happening on that end for when we look at our entertainment needs? We're going to be wanting to compare those areas. And then how do we continue to drive that awareness and interest once the theaters open back up in those areas? How do we continue to drive that interest in the type of shopping that we're doing too as well?
So there you have it. These are our 7 consumer purchase behavior trends. And again, we believe that it's very important to understand these trends as you go forward. Going on to the recovery and how the consumers and retailers and brands are going to recover. If you take a look at this chart, as you can see, in 2020 during the virus, things were absolutely very, very erratic. But we believe that the recovery is going to happen, and as you can see, by 2022, 2023, everything we feel should be back to normal.
And just some closing thoughts that we have about the evolving opportunities that brands and retailers have. We believe that there is going to be a consolidation of retailers and brands that will fundamentally alter that competitive partner landscape. And we have to take that time to strategically embrace and understand what is going on with those consumers. We know that the marketing budget adjustments are happening. How are we going to adjust those marketing budgets for those products within the store and for those actual retailers? What is going to change in the cost of acquisition of that consumer or that shopper? We're going to be looking at point of sale and e-commerce. How are we going to be impacting not only in-store sales, but also continuing to drive the e-commerce sales? We're going to be looking at the changes with store layouts and masks. For brand attention and brand loyalty, again, because of the buying situation and the pandemic buying and some of the outs, people have switched from brands. And how are those brands going to be able to grasp that consumer back? Somebody that might have bought a certain toilet paper brand just bought whatever they could to be able to have toilet paper. So again, we're going to have more attention to brand loyalty as well. We're seeing that increase in private label, and how will that impact those category captains within the stores, and how will that impact placement within those stores too as well? What's going to happen with B2B and B2C? With B2B, a lot of your distributors, folks that were shut down for restaurants, and were impacted greatly on that side. So what's going to happen with those folks that were supplying those restaurants as they open back up? What is going to be the new normal for business to consumer? And again, understanding and knowing your shopper behaviors, the likes, the dislikes, and preferences of what is going on, the demographics of your shopper too as well. But most importantly, if we leave you with one thought, we want you to think about that ever-changing landscape on a daily, sometimes even hourly basis based upon what is happening out there, is that real-time store and shelf analytics is going to be important as we continue to move forward. And we're going to be shifting that idea of that report card reporting method into what is happening this week with my consumers in my retail or my grocery store, and what is happening to my brand and my marketing, again, related back to those marketing budget adjustments.
It's all going to be about truly knowing your shopper and understanding changes, and then applying what you have to that to drive business.
And now we'd like to turn it back over to John. Any questions?
Sure, Tami and Steve, we do have one question here that came in. How do you reconcile the sustainability trend with consumers' increased desire to have no-touch packaging, such as prepackaged produce, which increases the amount of plastic, and retailers not using reusable bags? What do you think?
We're going into that. Obviously, I think a lot of it is going to need to focus around information to the consumer that lets them know about the fact that those are sustainable products. As far as the plastic bags, and the unfortunate part is that there's some materials in packaging that you just can't get around, and so you may not be able to fully go through a sustainable type product. I think the most important is just to trying to make the effort and making sure that you get paid for it as well. Tami, your thoughts?
I agree with you, Steve, as well. I think we're going to continue to see, and thank you so much, Christina, for your question. We do appreciate it. We're going to see consumers' desire to have that no-touch packaging. Again, the sustainable products, the corn-based products, those types of things that are biodegradable, that are going to be going into those landfills, I think can be handled with some of the plastics. We are seeing a lot of produce being put into bundles like zucchini, wrapped and already in a little tray for you to take home with you. So I think we're going to have to look at ways that we can continue to decrease that landfill, but work with sustainable packaging companies that are willing to come up with some creative ways for that. And as far as not being able to be reusable bags, I've actually personally observed bags, the paper bags coming back. And are those bags, the plastic bags, going to be biodegradable too as well, and maybe be more corn-based? I think we're going to see a lot of solutions coming out of some of those folks that are creating those products.
Okay, well, thank you, Tami and Steve. That was truly outstanding. As one of our attendees wrote in the chat box, there was super helpful information. If you want to follow up with Tami, her email address is on the screen right now, as well as the overall email address for Retail Aware. Thank you again, Steve and Tami. That was truly outstanding.